Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev.
Good day.
Good day. It's afternoon on a Saturday
It is.
for us right now.
We fly by the seat of our pants.
I know.
That's what it seems like these days, huh?
Sorta, yeah. So, so we had to move our recordings to Sunday, but I have a certification course to teach all day, and I was like, shoot. So here we are.
Which is so funny because I looked at the calendar. And saw it. I never even crossed my mind, never even thought about it.
Yeah, I didn't even until I text you.
So funny.
That's an issue, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. That's like welcome to life, right? This is kind of how life is, and we just kind of have to embrace it and move forward, whatever that looks like. The thing is, we get caught up sometimes trying to orchestrate and control how it's going to happen instead of just going with the flow. I've been guilty about it a million times. How's your week been this last week?
Actually pretty light. I have felt relaxed. Been having some fun at work actually.
Nice.
Celebrating, some minor advancements in what I'm there to do, and a lot of laughter, and it's just I feel more relaxed, less pressured, especially when I saw a paycheck go into the bank account.
Nice.
So it's like relief. And we talk about when we want to of course, manifest a lot of money, because for me, it's equivalent to like freedom. Well, the homeless person has freedom, right? They don't have any bills. They don't have a car payment. And they roam wherever they want to roam, do what they want to do. That's freedom. I mean, that could be freedom to them. And so it really is when things like this happen, it really gives you an opportunity to recognize how are you defining freedom and how are you looking at it. So whatever you want to manifest, whatever you want to bring to yourself, really being able to define that for yourself. Right. And so also I was so balled up and caught up in the task, having to get tasks done every day, and just on that pressure. I had a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself with everything. And like we talked about this last week, about being able to just kind of release that and then regroup. Right. I gotta regroup. I'm 3 weeks into this new job, and I still don't have quote unquote a routine to lay a foundation yet. So I'm stepping into this job in two of the weeks that are the busiest weeks for them in the year. And so it's just a little bit of craziness going on at work. So waiting for that to calm down so that the rest of the schedule kind of calms down, and then I can start laying that foundation. So I'm still in that, I don't know, I just want to say limbo right now.
It's like, it sounds like release and growth all at the same time. And it's easy for us we get so used to putting our nose to the grindstone, right? And like for you, like doing all the work that you were doing, like, look at me. I'm not saying that you were doing this, but for me, when I was at home doing things, I overdid it. So when I had the opportunity to be at home when Jim was working and he was making a lot of money, I had the opportunity to be home with the girls when they were in high school, which was awesome because I could get them back and forth to school. I was in their business a lot more. We had an opportunity to create different relationships. But that being said, I felt like I had such pressure on myself to constantly, I'm not finding the right word, but constantly keep myself busy, look like I'm doing something, that I have worth at home, like constantly making sure, like, Jim, I know you're working really hard, but hey, look I got the house clean, dinner's done on time, the yard's getting taken care of, laundry's done. Do you know what I mean? All this stuff, and like always constantly trying to go above and beyond. I never gave myself that opportunity to sit and to just do nothing. And it sounds like that maybe you might have had similar things, you know, making sure you're doing stuff, especially when you're looking for stuff, funds to come in, right? When you were saying, talking about this freedom, and I wrote down on my tablet was defining what freedom looks like to you, because when we talk about that, like you said, the homeless man, right? And it's defining that freedom. Well, we have freedom all the time, and it's the choices, and then it's recognizing, which goes along with this whole week. I've been very emotional this week. I've been crying, but I've had an asking. I'm releasing triggers. I'm releasing emotions. I've had an asking for these things to come forward. So of course these things are going to come forward, and I'm going to have an emotional response because it's a release. And that's the thing. Sometimes people don't understand when we ask for these things. It's also defining, how do I want that release? I didn't define it, so the way that it came out, path of least resistance, was crying for me. A lot of crying, a lot of emotional, but seeing stuff all the way down to childhood, just so much recognition of how I've been showing up, and how much pressure I put on myself to perform. That was the word I was looking for. Like, I feel like I had to perform because I had to show my worth. And we don't have to show our worth. If I felt worthy for myself, that's all that would have mattered. It didn't matter what someone else's perspective was or their perception, because someone that puts their nose to the grindstone or thinks that they have to work hard to earn, or to, for whatever, you have to work hard in life. If you believe that, you put yourself in that space, and that there's nothing wrong with that, because it's a choice. I say it's a choice, and a lot of people don't realize it's probably a choice, but it is a choice, because I feel like things are easier now. Am I 100% good at that? No, because even my setting still doesn't set still. It hasn't, it hasn't 100% done that, but it has improved over time for sure.
Yeah.
So I was like hearing you say all that, and it's like, to me, it's like releasing some of the things, and it's releasing some of the students, honestly, because it's time for those students. I mean, and I don't know, but it's like, even for me, for massage, if I was thinking about being the therapist, or I'm helping people when they come in and we're having conversations, I've got to not allow them. I've got to release them, because if I hold on to them to keep them in this space, not like a prisoner or anything like that, but if I want to keep them coming to see me all the time for massage and to rely only on me, then I'm kind of not allowing their full growth. And if I'm always here, we as individuals have a tendency to want to stay in the place where it's comfortable. So instead of going out, realizing that maybe there's nothing more to learn from this teacher, but this teacher's right in front of me. And then by holding on to that, which we've been talking about, is letting go of what's in front of you, and then being excited to see what's going to show up next. Because if you had looked at this 6 weeks ago and thought you'd be here, you'd be like, oh, hell no, like, this isn't going to happen. No, that doesn't make any sense. But when you did that, it's like so many things happened. You let go of controlling things. You let go. I'm not saying you have let go of clients, because I don't think that that's the truth, but it gives those clients an opportunity to define to them what's important to them. Do they want to show up? Do they want to do these things? So that now they have an opportunity, because now your time is a little bit less that you can have outside of work for that kind of stuff. So now people have to make a commitment. Or they don't, right? That's totally up to them. But I feel like it presented so many opportunities. It's like you walked through one door, like the door didn't close behind you because it's still open, but you walk through that one door, and it's like all of a sudden there's like 15 doors that are open all in front of you, and you can go any direction you want to, and the one behind you never closed. Right. So it's like the possibilities are endless, but it's like, would you have wanted to move forward carrying all the stuff that you were carrying with you at that time, that, all that stuff on your back? You would, now that where you're at right now, feeling that peace, I don't think that you'd want to still feel that same way that you were before. So we lose sight of some things because we're working so hard all the time. Yeah. And that's the only thing that got lost sight, right? That's the doing, because we think we got to constantly be doing. Yeah. And that's where it gets confusing. Well, I got to go meditate. Well, that's doing, right? Just be. That's what I'm learning right now, to just be with myself, experience whatever I'm experiencing in this moment.
Yeah, for sure. And the weight, like that weight has just been lifted off of me. And
I feel it. It's palpable, really. It really is. I can feel it. It's it's like, I don't know, it's like having like, I can't even think of a good analogy right now, but it's like all of a sudden all this freedom just opened up and is such a great flow. It's awesome.
Yeah. And
It's
I'm
awesome where you're at right now.
thanks. Um, I was I was focused on the having to keep classes going because I need the income,
Yeah.
and but not having the space and space to be creative for what I really wanted to be doing, which is putting together like coaching program, like 6-month coaching program, and committing to that is doing all the little classes, the individual stuff, so I could keep it. And that takes a lot of time and energy. And so it was just my schedule was just filled with a lot of stuff. And like you were saying earlier, I sat here working from morning until afternoon, late afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, then go do dinner and cook dinner and do the night stuff and get my schedule ready for the next day and get up and do it all over again. It was like I was living in this cycle, a daily cycle, and not getting anywhere. And now that like I'm releasing a lot of that, clearing, excuse me, a lot of that stuff, the stuff, like just clearing my schedules, clearing the to-do list, just it's like making room, right? I'm making room for what's next. And
For you.
yeah, and so our energy affects everything. Energy affects business, it affects personal life, it all intermingles. And I was so into the business and focused on it, trying to make the money to pay the bills, contribute to it's just like I had that grasp. And as much as I wanted to not be in that space, I was in that space. And sometimes we got to remove ourselves from that space to recognize we're in that space, right? So you can feel the difference. And that's where I'm at, is like feeling that difference. And every time it gives us an opportunity to get even more clear about what we want, how we want to feel. Like I feel so much more relaxed. And even though I'm going to a full-time job now, it's okay because we've been having fun, we've been laughing, we've been creating, and so what I really am recognizing is the difference in how I'm feeling. So and at first, I have to say, like at first I was going to work, working 8 hours, get home, cook dinner, do what I need to do at night, and then get up, go to work, get home, cook dinner, do what right? And it's, at first I was a little peeved that I was doing that. Like I had to go to work all day. Now I got to come home. Now I got to cook dinner, and then I got to do all the stuff, and then I got to do it again tomorrow. And the counterpart in the household not contributing to the evening stuff. And I had to recognize, like, I was doing that before. Why is it bothering me so much now? I got to eat, so I'm going to cook dinner. Right? So it's like that whole mindset shift. It's funny how we get into old programming, things show up, and you just got it. Sometimes it takes you back. Sometimes you're in it. Sometimes you recognize it right away. But the idea is that I'm moving through these different scenarios. And then for me, I'm grateful that I can recognize it fairly quickly and be able to shift it. Sometimes I do really good. Sometimes I don't do so good. Just how I am and how I'm operating, but I'm getting better. And every time I know I'm getting better.
You're working on it. That's the whole thing.
It's always continuous.
Always. It's just like being in a space of love. I don't just walk out the door and be in a space of love all day long. It's not from that space. It's not, for me, it's not possible yet. I'm in that space more frequently. I have an awareness of that space. I have an awareness. I started asking, like, I want to feel what does undiluted love feel like? Like, what does it feel like? What does it feel like just to see when I move through the day, for me to have nothing but encounters with someone's soul? I have clients that come in here, and when they're in here, it's like, oh my God, you're the most amazing person. And I'm not saying they're not amazing still, but then I'll start seeing, maybe a post on Facebook or a post on TikTok or a post on somewhere else, and they're like all gangsta and everything else. I'm like, that's like a totally different person then comes into my office. But I want to see their soul when they come to my office. So if I see their soul, I'm not looking at them from a 3D perspective. I'm seeing them for their soul. And it's so beautiful. Like, it makes your eyes water. My first client today, she's so amazing. I've only seen her. It's the second time I've seen her. She opens up the door. I was in here getting ready. She opens up the door. She's like, good morning. She like just come. She was just so happy. She says, you don't even know. I've been waiting for this appointment. I've been waiting for this appointment. I'm so excited. So amazing. But to be in that space, and how can you have those encounters? It's to be in the space that we're in. It's to listen to where we're growing from, because we could have stood in the victim mindset, right? And looked at this whole thing and been like, it's horrible. We're not going to be able to do tea time anymore. We're not going to be able to have conversations. Like, we could look at it so limiting and so miserable, going to work all day long. And it's like, well, there's other ways to look at that too. That it could be like, okay, so this is an opportunity for me to have a communication with my counterpart or the counterpart in the home to say, hey, I could use some help. You want to come in and help me do this? Hey, can you stir that while I'm doing this? Can we work together and do this? It just opens up the door for communication, because we don't have to do it all by ourselves. But we were taught to be so independent, and that we should be able to do all this stuff, and we shouldn't have to ask for help. And that's not, and I even caught myself yesterday doing it. Freeman said something, did you take care of go off the air conditioner in the cat house? And it's like 6:30, it should have been turned off already. And I said, I haven't. I said, because I know he's not feeling well, so I wanted to get dinner done. And I already was going through a list of things to do, even though I was out running around. I did my work yesterday, and I went to the gym, or no, I don't know what I did yesterday, but anyways, I know I worked, did a few other things. And I'm like, wait a minute, yesterday was Friday. I did not go to the gym, you liar. Hey, but I caught myself. But like, thinking about that whole process, and then I got home, and then he's like, well, what do you got to do? And I'm like, well, I got to finish doing the dishes first. I just finished making dinner, so I got to do the dishes. And then I got laundry that's in the dryer that I got to fold. And then I'm going to go over and take care of the cats. And then instead of me asking for help, right? Hey, could you help me out? I didn't say anything else. He went and grabbed the stuff, and that's great. But that kind of does a disservice for myself, which I'm not saying that please do continue to help. If you're watching, continue to help. But on the other side of that, it was me recognizing I've got to use my words. I have a voice here. Why am I not using it? Because we're so worried about asking somebody and they say no. So what? What if they said no? I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. Okay. Hey, at least you asked.
Right.
Okay, angels, I need some help. Like, right? I told the story a long time ago, being at my stepdad's house after whatever. We had cut down, Jim and I had gone over because we thought we were going to clear out these 2 trees, no problem, right? They're tall, no big deal. They're like resting on the roof of the house, for God's sakes. But it's not going to be a small, it's easy. This is fast. We figured we'd go over and get it done, and it was cold outside. It was a sunny day, so it was nice, so that it hadn't gotten dark or anything like that. So we were bundled up, but being out there, and it's like it was daunting, because at that point, it's like, there's a lot more than we thought it was. And we're still going, and I'm like, oh God, angels, please send someone to help. I didn't clarify. Now, if I would have specified, it might have even been different, but help did come, because a person showed up and said, hey, I make ladders out of wood from trees and stuff. Can I take these branches? Oh, of course you can. Take them all. You can have whatever you want. Bring your friends. I don't care. You know what I mean? But then he was helping us pull stuff. So then it helped move it along a lot better. We have to ask for help. And we get so caught up in thinking we have to do this all on our own. If we're living by ourselves, you're going to do it by yourself. Not really, because you can still ask for help, and it's going to show up. Maybe someone comes, maybe you get a phone call from your mom and says, hey, guess what? I'm in town. I'm bringing over to KFC or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's just, there's always an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for someone else to be able to stand up and help, to give them an opportunity to help. Otherwise, it's like, it's not a cohesive, right? It's just like, sometimes for Jim and I, it felt like we were roommates. I mean, a lot of times if we weren't having conversations or, I would get pissed off and I'd shut down and not talk at all. And he would go drink. So that's how he dealt with me. And that's how I did with him. And we didn't deal with anything. We didn't deal with anything at all. We didn't communicate. So it's like, there's all this stuff. Gosh, everything, if you think about it, you've gone through, it's been like a communication. Because even the stuff that wasn't going the way that you wanted to go was a communication, right? Even when we ask God for an answer and we get no answer, it's still an answer. That's an answer. God, what's wrong with me? Crickets. I hear nothing. Because God doesn't think there's anything wrong with me, right? That's my own self-judgment. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's not even a true story. It's a story. So it's awesome.
And that's one of the things that's happening is getting clear on communication with manifesting. Like, I find manifesting so interesting and fascinating, and how absolute clear we have to be. It is amazing. And
because it's literal, right? It's so literal.
Yeah. And each experience is an opportunity to get even more clear. It doesn't mean it's not working out, right? Doesn't mean that you failed. Doesn't mean things are going sideways. It means, okay, this is what you've been thinking about. This is what you wanted, and this is how it's showing up. And then you got to decide, is it showing up the way you thought it was? And in my head, no. The answer is no. But you know what? Everything that I've been asking for is happening in a way of least resistance to me. And so again, coming back to being a 1 year and laying the foundation, now it's up to me to start laying that foundation. And, you got to have your footing, right? I don't feel like I have my footing yet. So it's probably going to be another week or two, maybe 3. I don't know, but feeling like I have my feet are planted and I'm feeling more grounded in where I'm at, what I'm doing. And then we start laying the foundation out. So I don't know how long that's going to be, and that's okay. I got to learn to be more clear on my communication with the universe.
I think that's kind of like all of us, because what I was saying is it's literal. It's just like a kid. If you think about it, it's just like a little child. If you're telling a child, an instance, if someone told my uncle when he was little, go play on the freeway, he was brought back from the police officers because he was on his tricycle on the freeway. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
literal. We have, when we're putting stuff out there, it's literal. It's really to be aware of what we're saying. And the thing that pops in my head is like, oh, be careful what you wish for. It's not like that. It's not be careful, but be aware of what you're wishing for. Be aware of what you're really asking for. Be that child that's literal. And if someone says stop, you're just going to stop. Like, it's whatever those words are that you're using right now. And just like you said a little while ago, freedom. Everybody's free. A person in prison can be free. Are you free in your mind? Are you free in your soul? Or are you a prisoner? There's people that are free that are living in their homes as prisoners. They're living in their body as a prisoner, as if it's a prison. And it's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm not saying that someone's not experiencing that right now. They could very well be experiencing that, but it doesn't have to be that way. We have opportunities for all kinds of different choices. And just like for yours, I hear people all the time arguing for and that's not even the right words, because you have not argued for your limitations. I don't even know where I was going to go with that, but I've had a few clients recently coming in and arguing for their limitations. And then one of them I had seen probably a year ago, and then started to bring forward a story of her experience that she'd already told me about, which also told me that she's still living in that chapter of her life, right? But it's just, that's a choice. There's nothing wrong with it. If that person wants to live in that choice, whether it's a good space to be in or not a good space to be in, that's their choice, 100%. So if she wants to, or he wants to be in their own particular prison that they've created, then you can stay in it. If you want to talk about your partner that's no longer there all the time, as if this whole new situation just happened overnight, but it had happened, had been happening for a long time. And then she says to me, because I interrupted her, I do that, if anybody knows me, they do know that I do that. But when it gets to a point, it's like, we've already read that chapter. Why are you going to keep reading that same chapter again? When are you going to start writing your own book? you know what I mean? To not still stay in that space and watching our words, like this one person was saying, oh, well, he left and then he brought this third dog into the house and it's a lot, it's a lot and it's overwhelming. And then I'm talking to her, I said, well, you know, there's always people out there, you can set it out into the universe, find the perfect home. And, oh, but I love these dogs. Oh, well, that's great. I'm glad you said that, because here's the deal. Here's one way you could practice, because what you just said and the feeling of it was heavy and that this was burdensome. So the animals would feel that it was heavy and burdensome, right? They're not going to feel in the space they need to be in. And she's not going to either. But you just told me that you love them. Do you absolutely love them? I said, that's a better conversation, don't you think? I've got 3 amazing dogs. If it wasn't for my past partner, I wouldn't even have these dogs right now. And they're my lifeline right now. They're helping me through this. So it's just, again, we're going back to words, really thinking about what we're saying. Because it's easy to get into that space. It's easy to go tell everybody the story. And then it's like we've talked about, which you can probably go back several recordings. We get tired of the same old story. We get tired of repeating that story. We don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's not even worth having a conversation about, because it's like opening up a can of something that smells really bad and you don't want it. It's like, oh, throw it in the trash. I don't need it. We don't need to taste it just to make sure it's not bad. It smells bad. Let's just throw it away. You know what I mean?
It's like you have like, I have a library of books over here to my left, a library of books. I also have a library of books in the closet. And it's like having all these amazing books to choose from. And I go and pick the same story I've been telling over and over and over. Like, oh, I'm going to read this again. And I keep doing that every single day. Why? When you have all this other amazing information to play off of. And so it's like we forget that we can turn the page and start writing our new story. And that new story is what you're creating with the universe. And the more clear we are, the more amazing it gets.
100%. And that's all. It's not, we're not being punished. We're just like, okay, do you want to stay in that same place? Okay, you can stay in that same place. You can play that record over and over and again. And whoever listens to ever listen to records, because I have. And then where it gets to the end and it just skips and skips and you know, it just doesn't do anything. And it's like, you can continue being on that space. That's your choice. Or we can just flip the page, or I can turn the record over, or there's a whole bunch of ors. There's so many different things you can possibly do. It's so. I also know I've been in that mind space of being limited too. So, and do I bounce there? Yeah, I do, but I'll bounce my butt right on out of there too. I don't need to stay in that space anymore to continue learning, because as soon as I recognize I'm in that space, I'm like, oh, gosh, what could I think differently right now?
Yeah.
Of course, after, like I said, this week was a crying week, but it was awesome for me. That's awesome, because I'm not usually crying all the time, but I'm emotional. We talk about trying to control things. We talk about change. We can't control things. Change is inevitable. But I have gone through, like, where we've had patterns in life. So I get past all this stuff, and here comes the victim, right? Here comes the victim, because this victim doesn't want to be hurt again with another person that passes. And it's like the people that pass now are super close to me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that my brother and my mom and my husband weren't. They were, but it's like I've got my kids and my grandkids. So, I mean, I've got lots of friends and stuff too, but it's like that right there would be devastating to me. And I realized, without even realizing it, that I was holding on to this, listening to my sister speak, talking about, I said, well, you miss mom. And she says, I do. And I said, but to me, that connection, I said, I don't feel the same way about mom like that, missing her like that. Cause for me, it's like, it's a connection. It's a connection. And I said, if you're missing her, then you're not realizing the connection. And I said, and this is learning a new language to get that connection. So going through that process, it's just interesting as we're just moving through all this stuff, how much stuff there is. So she's talking about this. She brings up a dream and she says, yeah, in the dream, I know there's a man knocking at the door. And I open up the door and then there's mom. And she's like, come with me. And Shannon's like, okay. And I was like thinking, oh God, what if something happens to my sister? Like, so, because in my mind, because I saw signs before with Jim, after it was all said and done, I could look back and see all the signs. And I'm like, oh, so then you start getting devastated, right? So I'm crying about something that hasn't even happened. I'm grieving over something that hasn't even happened, right? And if it does happen, I have no control over it. And it doesn't just stop at my sisters. It's my grandkids, and my daughter is going to have another baby, like all these things. And it's like all these what ifs, and I've always had all these concerns and worries, and they're all, you pay attention to every single detail, which is great. But for me, it brought an awareness forward, and I'm constantly like leaning over. I'll hold Vivi's hand, or I'll put my hand on her leg or her arm, and I'm like, you know, I really love you, don't you? Like, I love you. And she's like, I love you more. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. But it's like, with all that being said, it just makes me recognize how much there is around me to appreciate. So it took me from a place of grieving something that, you know, anticipatory grief, that of something that I don't even know is going to happen, and we're all not going to get out of here alive. It's just the way it is, guys. I don't know if anyone, you know, it's like a news flash, maybe to some, but we ain't getting out alive. We will. We're just going to drop our skin suit on the wherever. But it's like that whole process allowed me to go from being a victim, worried about losing what I hold so valuable to me, and then realizing how much I can, because of that space, it's helped me to appreciate all the moments when I am with them and when I'm not with them.
Which is what life is teaching us.
Yes.
Well,
So
really,
we can have gratitude.
Quote unquote, death is teaching us. We know there's
Yeah.
no death, but using that term, that the person's no longer in the physical form, that death is teaching us gratitude. Death is teaching us to appreciate those moments that we do have with each other. So there's value in everything. There's value to just be, there's value in doing, there's value in your manifesting process, there's value in death. It's how are you perceiving it? And that's where, you know, that's our biggest hang up, is how we're perceiving it. Death is perceived as loss, and loss is that person is no longer here. And a lot of grief is grieving what could have been. So we got to change the mindset, you know. Okay, well, we weren't close. So I'm going to work on the relationships that I do have to be close to the people that mean a lot to me. I didn't say I was sorry for whatever the scenario was. Okay, well, I'm going to be sure to have better communication and be more heartfelt with those people that are here in the physical form with me still. I didn't say I love you. Okay, well, now I'm going to practice saying I love you more often to the people who are still here, right? So death teaches so much, but people just get hung up on the loss.
It's true.
And like you said, we don't know how long we're going to be here, and we don't know how we're going to exit, right? We're each exiting in our own way, whatever our spirit lined up for us before we came here. And you know, as hard as it is to hear this, the way we exit, there is lessons, there is reasons in how each of us exit.
It's true. And I was listening to James Van Praagh this morning being interviewed by Alex. I don't know if you watched that.
I was listening to that too this morning.
I was watching it, and it's like he touched on suicide again, right? And I feel the same way about suicide. And I was talking to one of my clients today. It's almost like as if the world, the planet, has made suicide like you're going to go to hell for doing that. And I'm not encouraging people to commit suicide. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think that you're telling them that they're miserable and they can't go on, and that's why they do these things that they do. But you expect them to stay here and be in that same space and not be happy, because sometimes they can't get out of the space they're in that moment. I'm not saying it's not possible, but on the other side of that, I know that there's so much to learn from someone committing suicide. It's such an opportunity for a village to be able to step forward. It gives the opportunity for those that have maybe they haven't been strong and now they get to be strong, right? Or maybe it's giving the opportunity for someone else to grieve and then someone else to be strong around for that grieving. It's someone else to step forward and help out kids or give guidance and learn about this. And how can you, how can you serve the people around you even more? To me, it's such a gift. I'm not saying that suicide is the gift, but I'm just saying there's such a gift from us being here, and there's something to be learned from every single person passing, no matter if it was from suicide, natural causes, murdered, however it happened. And it's not so much to get caught up on the departure, the way that we depart. It's just because then you lose sight of the soul that you've spent so much time with. You lose sight of that energy. So it's kind of focusing in on the energies and the souls that have been here, and what do they bring forward. I can sit and say, my brother was addicted to drugs. He was addicted to distraction. He couldn't handle anything else. Drugs understood him. He understood drugs. He knew where he stood with it. Abusive relationship, not abusive relationship, who knows, who cares? But he came here and explored what it was to do drugs. Some people maybe come here to explore what it feels like to have committed suicide or whatever. I don't think it's so black and white like they've taught us to be. And I don't think anyone's meant to be in a prison. But it's also, we're in a time-space reality now that we're showing so many other possibilities. If you're hurting that bad, let's talk. Like if you're hurting that bad, let's do this. And also knowing that it's not up to us to go fix everybody, but we can plant seeds. And even if they don't use it in this lifetime, it doesn't mean they're not going to be using some of that information the next time they come in, or however you want to look at it.
Well, that has a lot to do with hopelessness. You get into such a deep state of depression, you have no hope. And
yes,
and like me with the I'm going to say blinders, but just having that tunnel vision with my business. I am right here, right now. This is what I'm focused on, head down, constant, minute after minute after minute, like hours and hours and days. And it's the same with hopelessness. You get into that space, that the energy of that, and you can't see anything out of it. It's like you got glasses on and there's mud smeared on the lenses and you just can't see anything past that. And so being a light worker, having the ability to plant the seeds and to shine the light, and also, talking about James Van Praagh and what he was saying, that everybody has a life review, and you feel like intensely feel from the other person's perspective, your words being received or your actions being received on that person. And as the other person, you intensely feel their emotions in reaction to whatever you said or did. And so you've been speaking about suicide, like to have a life review from that perspective, that's going to be pretty intense, because it's going to be lots and lots of people affected by that typically. And to go through that from spirit perspective in a life review like that, that's an intense lesson. So that's huge. I'm like, oh, I got to learn to love myself. I need to learn self-love. And here somebody's doing suicide. Can you imagine like the comparison? I would say suicide is like up there with getting that doctorate, like huge. Like it's just so, and I'm making it lighthearted. And I know it anybody going through something who has been affected by suicide, it's not that it's something to laugh about or joke about. However, from a soul's perspective, we don't know the story. We don't know the details. We only know from our human experience and our programming about how people exit, how people transition, and how it's supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to be viewed, and how we're supposed to, quote unquote, react to it.
Yeah. And I like to bring it up just because a lot of people condemn people that have committed suicide, and they're not to be condemned, because that's still putting an energy out there. You're still putting energy to a person that doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? So it's really knowing, it's just being that supportive. It's just saying prayers for that person, however their experience was when they left here, or it's not getting wrapped up in all the stuff that they've been going through, for sure, because that can take you down another path you don't want to really go to, because we can really dip ourselves into energies that don't feel good. But it's just being aware that, and then a lot of people think that when they do that, they're just they go to hell. And then they worry about that the whole time while they're here in this experience. So it's like not to be in that space. It's to realize that they're on the other side. I mean, I've listened to so many different mediums. They've talked about how spirit is, and once they go on the other side, maybe they've gone through a place where they go to, that they go through some healing for all the traumas or whatever they had experienced in life because they couldn't deal with while they were here. But then after that, they're helping assist people that kill themselves, or maybe they're being a guide it's talking to someone so they're not killing themselves. So they're staying here for the journey, or saying, hey, just pick up the phone and call Amy. Just pick up the phone and call Bev. They'll answer. They're going to listen to you. You're going to have a conversation, right? So it could be anybody, but I'm just saying there's just so many ways to look at it. And for me, I'm always going to look at it from a place that feels good. And the other stories that we've heard for so many years about, gosh, my whole life, it's been that way until the last probably 5 years that I've gained a different perspective on suicide, because it is different. And how would it feel to tell any of those parents from that have lost their kids from suicide, to tell them, that, oh, well, they're going to hell. I feel sorry for their soul, or, whatever. And it's like, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, it's
And
not
then,
something that needs to be repeated.
yeah, and then the parent takes on the responsibility of, I didn't raise my child right to get them to go to heaven. So now a parent has to live with that guilt of,
yeah,
I raised my child and they went to hell, and that's my fault. Could you imagine? Like, I just can't wrap my head around that type of thinking.
Yeah, which is good. But I mean, but there's so many out there that do think that way, right? So it's just putting it out there so people have a different perspective on things. Take what resonates with you, right? If it doesn't resonate with you, don't take it. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of things I don't take. It just doesn't resonate with me, and that's okay. Because if it doesn't vibrate with me, if I don't feel it, if it doesn't feel good to me, it just doesn't interest me at all.
Well, my whole thought though is like, okay, because I think about this stuff too. So we're born into this life to have an experience, and I'm just going to use self-love as the topic because that's what I know. And so went through abandonment, went through abuse, all that contributes to not teaching me self-love. That's teaching me to love outside of myself in ways that are unhealthy. And then being molested, and still struggling with that through my 20s, through my 30s, thinking about suicide from the age of 14 into my mid 30s on a daily basis. And thinking, okay, my spirit came here to learn self-love, and I take my life and I decide to check out because I can't handle this life. I don't like the way it is. I don't like people. I don't like what people do to people. So I'm checking out because I just can't handle it. The idea that I have to come back into the next lifetime and work on self-love because I couldn't do it this lifetime. I'm like, oh, hell to the no. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, because we're not here for a punishment though either. And I don't think that sounds like a punishment. Well, you didn't finish it the last time, so here you go. If you didn't eat all your peas, you don't get any dessert. That's how that sounds.
You didn't pass third grade, so we're holding you back and you got to do it again. I'm like, no. Instead of like, figure this out. Now, I may not be good I may not have excelled in that topic, but I definitely have an understanding of it. I know how to do it. And now it's the human and the spirit contradiction of the whole package, right? This whole container because of
Yeah.
life experiences, and learning to be in that space of self-love more frequently, which I do, but there are still moments because of the subconscious mind and its programming and all the stuff in there that I still dip into the heaviness. And so, but I, you know what, I bring myself out quicker. It's not months and years, it's minutes, hours, right? So yeah, no, I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea of having to start all over from your utero to go through that again to learn self-love. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm staying here and I'm going to figure this shit out because this pissing, because I actually got pissed. I'm like, this pissed me off and I'm going to figure this out. Why? Because I have that stubborn bone, like I've that independent and stubbornness that is ingrained in me from childhood. That's what kept me going. And that I'm going to figure this out. There's more to life than what I have been taught, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get the answers. And I think I have the answers that resonate with me. So I'm still here, and I'm going to be here till however I decide to exit, which will not be by my own hand. And that's my choice.
I hear what you're saying. But it's like a lot of that kind of just reminds me of a lot of the stuff still saying you're going to go to hell. Well, if you do something bad this lifetime or you do this, you're going to have to come back and repeat all that stuff. And it's like, they make it sound like it's daunting and a hard task and that it's a punishment, and it's not a punishment. We don't come here for a punishment. We come here to grow. We come here, from my perspective, we come here to experience. We're God's like this huge body, and we're all the cells inside of this body, and we're experiencing life for us, for God, and God's experiencing through us, through everything. So it's like, to me, there's no right or wrong, right? I'm not saying that you were saying it like that, but I'm just saying that that's how I've heard it so many times. Oh, karma, and you're gonna have to come back and do this again. And we don't have to do anything. There is no have to. And that's, I've been hearing more and more channelers, and I couldn't say mediums for sure, but I would say channelers that are channeling energies through that. It's like, it's not, some of the stuff we've been being told is almost like along the lines of, you're going to go to hell or you're going to go to heaven. And it's like, well, you're in hell or heaven in whatever experience you're here. We can experience heaven here, or we can experience hell here. It's our own personal choice. It's our perception.
Yeah, I never believed that we were going to hell. I never believed that when you die, you go to hell. Like that never resonated with me. There's no. What does resonate with me is we create our heaven or hell right now.
And here's something else. I was just talking to someone this morning, and we were talking about, she said, well, what if there is only 144,000? You know, like the Bible would say there's like 144,000. I'm like, 144,000? I said, that's 9. Those are endings for new beginnings. That's the way my perspective is on it. And I said, I hear what you're saying, but on the other side of that, how could only 144,000 go when we're all connected? There's no separation. Is that 144,000 that goes like going to condemn the rest parts of themselves that are still there? Like, so to me, it kind of all goes along the same lines. It's all a matter of perspective, how you want to look at things.
And even what James talked about, James Van Prague, he said like only like 30% of our energy is here. If I heard him right, I was getting ready for my day.
I didn't hear the number, but he did say
like 30, like of our spiritual being, only like about 30% of that energy is in the physical body.
There you are.
Did you hear that? So if I heard him right, James Van Prague said that of our spiritual energy, like of me, only about 30% of my energy is in this body, my spirit energy.
And I didn't hear him say that part, because I just had gotten probably to the part where he's talking about, basically, our soul is so huge, our spirit is so huge and vast that we're like a big toe.
Yeah.
That's what kind of how I heard him describe it, but I didn't hear the number. I didn't hear anything else after that.
Oh yeah.
So that's cool.
So yeah, no, and it's not that like coming back, so wanting to advance in learning self-love. It might, the next lifetime would show up differently. And who knows, maybe there's another level of learning self-love. And like I only reach a certain level in this lifetime, like, okay, I'm ready for the next level. And and then the next lifetime is gonna put me in situations to experience that in a higher on a higher uh level of vibration or frequency, or right. So they just, it's just been told, and I've heard it, and it resonates with me, that being in the physical body on earth is the hardest life to have. And that we keep coming back to keep advancing our souls, so that we can raise our vibrations. And the more, as I'm talking about this, like the more we do that, each one of us collectively coming here in a physical body to learn these emotions and to learn to raise our frequency and vibration while we're in the human body, like that is what's propelling the shift and change in energy of the planet, of the entire population, of war, of drugs, of rape and murders, like, but also the other spectrum of joy and praise and excitement and exhilaration. So I'm just like, the more we are learning to advance ourselves in the physical body, we're also advancing our souls, which means we're creating this huge shift. And it's not just for us individually, like our energy affects thousands of people. So I just think that's huge. That's amazing. It's like, how Alex said, he's like, it makes your brain hurt when you think about it. Sometimes he says that, I'm like, it's no joke, because you go down this rabbit hole with these thoughts, and it's like, wow. So cool.
It is so cool. Keeps life exciting, doesn't it?
Sure does. It was a great conversation. I can't even believe we've been here an hour already.
Oh, there you are.
It's like, doesn't even feel
Crazy.
Like it really doesn't. Like, I feel like we've only been talking about 15-20 minutes. So it's just weird.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not facing any clock, so I have no idea what time it is.
Yeah, it's like been an hour already.
Nice.
So
awesome.
That was great. It's a lot of information, a lot of things to help people think. I think that's one of the things that's so beneficial about our conversations, is it gives the other people opportunity to think for themselves, and especially based on their upbringing and their belief systems and religion and all the other stuff, that it's giving them the opportunity to think outside of the box, to think differently, to see things from a different perspective. And again, it comes back to giving yourself ease and grace. This life isn't easy. So be gentle with yourself as you're moving through it. Got any final words?
Just, I would say, take the time to see how you really feel, and always know there's someone else out there that's around you that could be very beneficial in helping you out if you're having struggles, and vice versa. Maybe you're the person that might be helping one of us out at another time when we're having some struggles. So it's like, it's always an ebb and flow, and you don't have to do this alone. You're never doing it alone. You might sometimes feel like you are, but we've got so much help around us, and we have it in forms of people that you see around you. You have it in forms of loved ones that have transitioned, angels, guides, ascended masters. There's so many different ways. The creator of all that is, God. So know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And when you you ask to have that upliftment of your energy and to feel something more than you're feeling right this moment, it'll happen
Yeah.
if you allow it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amy and Bev. And we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah. Yes, we will.
All right. Take care.
See you later.